There we go. Okay. Okay. So theoretically, Katie, if you talk now, they can hear you. So don't start talking about what we were talking about a few minutes ago. Wink. Katie, can you say something for everyone?
Yeah. Hi.
Boom.
They can hear me? Can you hear me?
I can. Absolutely.
Okay. I just can't see you.
Absolutely.
Okay. I just can't see you.
Do you still hear echo?
No.
No. No. Do it. Let's. Okay, hopefully this is the second time is the charm. Hopefully you guys can hear us loud and clear. Please let us know. We're going to try this one more time. But first of all, big thank you to the man that I love to hate the most, Jimmy. You are a godsend. You saved this show tonight. Thank you very much for your expertise.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. He's being quiet for some reason. Um, there you go. Perfect. Thank you, Jimmy, very much. And guys, make sure you check out Sunday Mass with Jimmy. If you want to switch over, then don't. But check it out later. I'm kidding, Jimmy. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, Jimmy.
Shouldn't the title be TSN? What is the title? Somebody
For
let me know.
tonight?
Well, I had to switch over to a new event, so if it doesn't say
Oh.
the Smoking Nun, please let me know and I can change that. But like I said, bear with me. I am learning vMix as we go along tonight. It was kind of a had some last minute things go on that caused me to kind of be thrown to the deep end. So we're going to see how it goes. But anyway, welcome to the Smoking Nun. I'm Kyle, joined as always by the lovely Katie Paulson from Without a Crystal Ball. Hello, Katie.
Hi.
Uh, okay.
Is
Everybody,
my
it's not coming from Bluetooth. Can you guys hear us okay? Uh, okay.
my video is delayed?
Yeah, your video is delayed. What? What is happening tonight? Why? Um,
Like I just readjusted like 2 minutes ago and now it's showing up.
okay. Do you wanna? I tell you what, Katie. Do you want to drop out and then come back in and see if that can fix it, or is it square now?
Yeah, I can try.
See if that works, and I'll let everybody know what we have coming up for the week. What do we have coming up for the week? Yeah, she's refreshing now, so we will get this. I promise. We will get this situated. Okay. So for this week, we have on Monday, tomorrow, the Mandela Effect. Steve has a special guest coming that's going to be walking us through the Mandela Effect, what it is, and is it a real? Is it something that's a urban legend. I don't know, but we'll find out tomorrow. Are you back, Katie?
I'm
perfect. Okay, let's see if this one is the key. We should all be good and all together now and ready to talk about terp derps and people who don't have a high enough IQ for sex. I can't wait to get to that.
Yeah, my video is still a little bit delayed.
Still a bit delayed. What's your connection like? Because over here I'm seeing you perfectly over on my side.
Are you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, then I won't worry about it.
Yeah, Jimmy says that you're in sync. So,
okay.
Good. Okay, now let's begin. So tomorrow we have the Mandela Effect with Rose Patton. She will be with us, Steve's special guest. Tuesday, really cool show. It happened on a rum and coke night. We were, Steve, more than anybody, was kind of inebriated and decided to bring Mr. Intelligent Design onto the stream. And when that... yeah, okay. Thank you, Jimmy. And when that happened, Reds was in the call as well. They got to talking, and Reds put out a challenge to go to a certain video, and if he got I think it was 45 likes that we settled on. If he got 45 likes, that he would debate Mr. Intelligent Design on anything. And we don't know what that topic's going to be. It did get to that number, but nonetheless, Mr. Intelligent Design and his sidekick Chris will be here on Tuesday. They will be debating Red's rhetoric on what we don't know. It will be a surprise, so he will be bringing that with him Tuesday. Let's see. On Halloween, Abandoned Florida, who is a guy that goes through, he specializes in abandoned funeral parlors. He goes to places that are either historic or they've been run down and takes you on a guided tour through them. Is fascinating. There was one set of group explorers that went to a underground mausoleum one time and actually found 7 bodies still there in the coffins. It was crazy. But he will be with us on Halloween to take us through a funeral parlor, so that will be cool. And then we'll stop it there. So, Katie.
Yeah.
Now that we're settled.
Mm-hmm.
That was a wild ride in, man. That was a wild ride in.
That was nuts.
Thank you guys for being patient with us. We will get through this. If we can survive a flat Earth debate, we can survive some tech issues. What's been happening this week?
It has been a wild week. I don't even know where to start.
Give us your favorite story of the week.
My favorite story? Sure. I guess we're going to talk about one later.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, not even a story per se, but I can tell you about my day today, which has been kind of fun.
Tell us.
We have been, me and my group have been tracking a woman in Alaska who is in the midst of labor, and she has preeclampsia, and she's anemic, and she's got some sort of infection and a broken rib, and she is free birthing at home.
Oh, why?
I don't know.
She needs turpentine, I think.
Yeah. And we just did so much trolling into this woman's background and found all kinds of, she sells supplements that can make, right? She sells supplements that will make you get pregnant with twins, she says. She thinks that you will it'll increase, just everything.
I honestly don't know how you stay sane. We touch on some crazy stuff, but it's sporadic enough to where we have time to recover. You just deal with it every day, so.
I do. I'm all day, every day. But I have an amazing team that I work with. I don't do this at all by myself. They help me so much finding me stories. One of my stories that I wrote today was delivered to me by someone, so it's it's nice to have that help.
What's going to happen is you're going to get to the point where you have a 2007 Britney Spears episode where you shave your head, throw umbrellas through car windshields. So it's coming. I will be there for you when it happens.
You will, or you won't?
Absolutely.
Okay. See, I always kind of miss 2007 Britney.
Yeah, they're necessary. You know, you just get to you get to a certain point where you're just like, and you know what, that remade her career there for a while. She burned out again, but it gave her a little bit of a run. Everybody loves a comeback.
Yeah, and I don't stick with any one topic, so that's as I write about all kinds of different things. Today I wrote about a swastika Halloween party. You know, yesterday I wrote about, I don't even remember.
Was it the vegan guy yesterday?
Yesterday I wrote about a little kid is an amputee that took his first steps. I tried to do more of a lighthearted post. And the man that got arrested for attempting to murder and then rape and then eat a fictitious girl. It was the dark web. It was a wild story.
The dark web. I have a little thing about it was going to be a surprise, but I might as well just tell everyone now. So I am ordering a mystery box off the dark web, and I will be opening it on the show.
Are you on the dark web?
Am I what? No.
Do you know?
I'm not on there. I'm not on there. I went on there for the sole purpose of doing this mystery box thing. So I don't stay on there. It's kind of like the people who are scared of the ocean. Like I went and dipped my toe into the dark web's ocean, and that's all that I wanted. I was out.
I downloaded it once. I think the Tor browser is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the wiki, but then I didn't know even what to search for, and I was scared because I didn't want to find child porn, and I didn't want to buy drugs or handguns, so I left.
That's a normal reaction. I think normal people, they're excited about like the idea of going on there, and then once you're on there and you know like what's literally surrounding you, you're kind of like, nah, let's get back to my Google homepage where everything's safe and
well, this guy was arrested by a special agent, so you know that there are cops looking for bad guys in there. So I'm just afraid of getting arrested, and then they look at my search history and they're like, "Why are you looking up from the Philippines?"
Right. I'm nervous about it, and then again I'm kind of excited. I will be wearing a mask and gloves just to be safe. But things we do.
What day? Oh, you don't know when it's going to arrive.
I don't know. I don't know when it's going to arrive. They don't. Obviously, there's no. They're all about privacy and keeping it hush hush. So it'll just be here. I heard a story though. There was I think I read this on Reddit actually. When I was researching this, like where you can get these from, and you know the ones that you need to watch out for, and if there's any that you need to stay away from. There was a story on Reddit, and the guy said that he had ordered a mystery box off the dark web. It came, and in it was an iPad, some car keys, a jewelry box, and some kind of stuffed animal. So he was really disappointed. And so he's down in the basement, and he takes the stuffed animal out, and his mom comes down into the basement, and she looks over the box and she says, "What are you doing with my jewelry box down here?" And she walks over to get the jewelry box, and then she says, "And there are my car keys. I've been looking for them since yesterday." And she gets mad. He goes to his room. He's looking on the iPad, and on the iPad is just a photo album, and it's pictures of him sleeping, his mom and dad sleeping, and the box being put outside the door.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Now I think that's obviously fiction. I hope, but it scared me. You know, that's creepy.
That's a really good Halloween creepified story. It reminds me of the Babysitter. You know, where she's watching kids and she gets tall and the person house.
Yep. You know what? Something like that could happen, but that'd be the end for me. I wouldn't be able to survive
Yeah.
after that. I'd be done for. So
I'm a wuss with all of that stuff. My husband is really mean, and I cannot watch scary movie or anything with him. And my son is following in his dad's footsteps, and I'm the odd woman out.
yeah, I love scary movies, but like real stuff, like Michael Myers and things that with haunted houses, like I love that stuff. But stories that could possibly be true because people are that weird and creepy, like that story, that's what really terrifies me.
Like I know, I get you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine. But let's get into some what I call this week in NewsDumb.
NewsDumb.
Yeah. King of the puns. Let's start out with. Hopefully this works. Hold your breath. Ah, yes. Okay. So we're going to begin with a story of a gentleman that was run over when someone mistaked him for a scarecrow. This happened in, I believe it was England. Let me get to my place here. Okay. A woman who ran over a man lying in the road after she mistook him for a scarecrow has been jailed. Marion Watt drove over 55-year-old Lawrence John outside a pub in Hampshire in September. Winchester Crown Court heard she stopped but thought he was a Guy Fawkes or a Guy Fawkes guy or a scarecrow. So I guess over there they might call them Guy Fawkes, which is like the anonymous people, those masks. She was jailed for a year after being found guilty of causing serious injury by dangerous driving last month. So I guess she got a year. She can't drive for 2 years, and she was not drunk. It was in the middle of the day. So, now, here's my question.
She's just like driving, and then she's just like...
Right, yes, that's exactly what happened. And she was at least creative enough, and it happened in a season where she could blame it on a scarecrow. She ran over... But then again, why was the man in the middle of the road? Like, it doesn't say in that article why he was in the middle of the road, but she literally ran over him in the middle of the road.
That's like my dog ate my homework.
Yeah.
I thought it was a scarecrow.
I gotta admit though, that's a clever excuse. I mean, of all the things she probably could have gotten away with it a lot easier or a lot better if she would have said she was drunk. At least then you have a reason for running someone. Well, not a reason. Lord, that came out really bad. That's still not a reason to run over someone. But there
are some people worth running over.
True. But just being sober in the middle of the day, going down the countryside and you hit someone, that's a lot more, I think, that's a lot harder to take in than being impaired, because at least you're impaired. We should just move on, because however I frame this, I still sound like I'm taking up for the drunk driver, and I'm not.
You're just trying to make her it's okay.
Humanizing it.
Yeah, I'm super comfortable, so I have to get comfy.
Okay, so this next story is equally hard to believe, but it's if they say there's no honor among thieves, but this next story proves that completely wrong, because in Belgian robbers asked to come back and are arrested on their return. So basically, these guys broke into the store and went to rob the manager of the store. And the manager said, I don't have any money right now. It's in the morning. I won't have any until later on in the afternoon, after people have had a chance to come in and buy stuff. Please come back and get it then. Now, normally you would expect one of two things to happen. Either they shake him down for any kind of goods or whatever little money he has,
right?
Or they just leave. Right. But no, they came back. They came back in the afternoon, and just I guess the guy had an intuition that they would do this because there waiting on them were the police. And that is a beautiful thing, I think. That played out well.
They came back. What a bunch
they came back.
of idiots.
You just never know about people. Okay.
They could have been on drugs, and they were just like, oh, yeah, that's practical.
I'm sure they were. Usually that's the reason that people, go and steal in the first place. They're trying to get money for drugs. So I guess if you're jonesing bad enough, like if Wi-Fi were like drugs, like if you had to shoot up Wi-Fi or take smoke Wi-Fi,
must get a hit.
I would rob some stores, and I would definitely be back for more if that were the case.
I'm like, this thing, I'm addicted to this thing, so I gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we'll save that one for last. Let's go to, here we go, for Halloween. So, Newsweek, a father dressed his son as Hitler for Halloween and was shocked at the reaction that he received. Now, again, two things are happening here. One, you have a father that should not have any kind of control or say in bringing up a child. That's number one. Number two, he has a very... The disconnect with him must be big because he actually, the kicker of this article is that he is surprised that he's getting so much negativity and so much flack about dressing his son up as Hitler. And I'll just show you this picture right now. Here is Father of the Year with the Fuhrer, and it looks like...
And he's like,
Bell.
Yeah, and he's dressed up as an SS agent. That's just so terrible.
Yeah. But, shocker, this came out of Kentucky. I don't think that would be too big of a surprise.
Kentucky is near Ohio, isn't it?
No.
Kentucky?
I think Kentucky's more south. Like, you would expect...
Okay.
You would expect these stories like these always come out of the South. 9 times out of 10,
or
Florida.
Ohio.
Yeah, that's true. Most of the time they're out of Florida, but
yeah.
Owensboro, Kentucky man is feeling online pain today, complaining about how the hate he's received when he and his 5-year-old son went to a Halloween event dressed as the Nazis. Brian Goldbach took to social media to protest after he and his family attended the Trail of Treats in Owensboro. Oh man. He posted Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll withhold my
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say it's like showing up as like Osama bin Laden or something. Like, no. There's
certain lines you don't cross, and
no.
Two, with your kid. That's the big thing. Like, if he wanted to go as a Nazi, more power to him. That's, him being stupid. But to dress your child up as Hitler, and I mean, and his dad's got the full blown outfit on.
I feel like he's had that for.
I'm sure. Here's what he says. He says that tonight grown adults threatened a child over his costume, threatened his mom and his dad as well, threatened to rip off his outfit, screaming obscenities, scaring us, and all this towards a small child. Goldbach said that he and his family love history and often dress the part of historical figures. Well, sir, there are an untold amount of historical figures that you could have went with that would have been...
Abraham Lincoln.
Right. Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
I mean, Shaka Khan would have been...
the Beatles.
The Beatles. But no. You go as literally the worst of them. You take all the historical figures and you go with the worst one.
Yeah. The man that ushered thousands of people into... I mean, I'm just saying, like, at a time, thousands of people at a time into showers that sprayed on them and killed them.
Yep.
I mean,
it's almost as bad as the people that you remember several years ago. They had a family that they were trying to get custody of, I think, but there was some kind of court battle going on. But they named their kids Adolf and
Yeah.
I think Ava was the other one. But why did they think this is a good idea and then get surprised when people say no, you can't do that with
Well, I think they actually named the child like Adolf Hitler. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't just like Adolf. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, they were pro-Nazi for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
I
It's
don't know.
I don't know if you saw the news this week, but it's like the Megyn Kelly from the Today Show. She had a panel on her morning show, and they were talking about different costumes that are no longer allowed on campus. And then she went on this off-script diatribe about how she doesn't understand why you can't face.
Yeah. Well, Megyn Kelly is number one, not the brightest crayon on the box, but she also has a really famous video where she went on a tirade about Santa Claus being white. She literally said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Santa Claus is white," and normal people are looking at that going, "Santa Claus is a fictional character."
Yeah, he's legit, not even real.
Right. So that was a dumb move on her part.
Do you want to say historically from Germany that Santa Claus that was developed there was white? Sure. But no.
Yeah.
I know. I saw something too. Jesus was white and, whatever.
That's the best. Yeah, those are the best ones.
I was personally just very excited that she was finally fired because she just irritated me. So...
Yeah, but the bigger conversation they were having, I think, is an important one with the costumes.
Yeah.
Because I don't agree with to the extreme in which they're pushing. You can't dress like this. You can't go as a hula girl. You can't go as a. They put a petition to stop the making of the Handmaid's Tale costume, sexy versions of the Handmaid's Tale costume. Now that is a fictional show. The Handmaid's Tale is a work of fiction. It didn't happen. It's a made-up thriller, and we get so easily. We're so ready to be offended that we're willing to let something. That's like people going to a Harry Potter costume and saying wizards were oppressive. I don't think we should allow people to dress up as wizards.
Yeah, yeah.
So the bigger conversation, I think, was important. She just took it way too far. And
I was reading an article, I think, in the Washington Post from staff members that didn't want to be named, essentially saying that she had a tendency to derail those roundtable conversations and go off script and cause a lot of drama behind the scenes.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
Not anymore. So
this is what happens from Fox News that did a 9 o'clock show and try to plant her in the morning. It didn't make any sense.
Right.
Give me Kathy and Hoda. Come on.
Oh. Kathy Griffith, man. Hoda, I like.
She's so annoying.
Kathy Griffith's just such a train wreck. I mean, just a train wreck.
Yeah. I don't watch the Today Show, but that was all over my...
Hoda's not bad. I don't mind Hoda. Okay, so let's talk about there are all kind of different ways that people who are anti-LGBTQ protest. Most of the time you see them holding up signs about religion or how God does not. It was Adam and Eve and not Kyle and Steve. However, there's one guy that was just so fed up with, let's see, this is in Orange City Pride. He detested the fact that there was going to be a Pride Week in his city, that he burned children's books from the public library to protest Pride Week. Now, this is what we call a non-sequitur. there is nothing in this story that follows the other. He is upset about their city hosting a Pride Week. So what does he do? He gets a bunch of books from the public library, children's books, not adult books, not homoerotic books or any kind of steamy male-on-male novels, children's books. And here's what happens. The public library is exploring legal options after an Iowan man rented and then publicly burned several children's books on Friday. The second annual Pride kickoff was to take place on Friday. About an hour before the event, Paul Dorr started a live Facebook video in which he stood near the event center. The 27-minute video ends with Dorr throwing at least 4 books that he claimed he rented from the public library into a burning trash can. Dorr is the director of the Rescue the Perishing, a religious group and website that calls a crisis center and pro-life, pro-family movement. May God and the homosexuals of OC Pride please forgive us.
Oh, children's books literally have nothing to do with it. Just makes no sense to me.
It doesn't. I think there's deeper issues going on here. A lot deeper. Mr. Dorr has...
Yeah.
He's got some deep-seated issues. We're going to finish up with the NewsDumb with probably one of my favorite stories that I've come across since we've been doing this. Because I think this can be something that should catch on and be implemented elsewhere. So, a judge has declared someone has too low of an IQ to have sex. Now, what you're thinking now, you're probably thinking this has something to do with somebody doing something so stupid that a judge is going, they should not be allowed to have children. Like the Nazi guy. That would be an instance where this would be good. Yeah, this would be a good thing.
Do not procreate.
Right. Let me pull up.
You should have. Your dad should have pulled out.
Yeah, well, we see examples of that all the time. Every day you could probably see or think of somebody that shouldn't have kids, but it's a little bit different in this case. There was a little bit. It's kind of a logical reason, in a way. I'm torn on this, but let's see what you guys think. In January,
I am not.
Oh, good then. Good. We will discuss then. A London High Court has delivered a bizarre and highly controversial verdict. The Telegraph and Daily Mail reported that a 41-year-old man known as Alan has been in a relationship with a man he lived with and told officials he wanted it to continue. But his local council decided his vigorous sex drive was inappropriate and that with an IQ of 48 and a moderate learning disability, he did not understand what he was doing. As per the judge's order, the man was subjected to extreme close supervision by the local authority that provides his accommodation in order to ensue that he does not break the order of not being able to have consensual sex. In such circumstances, it is agreed that the present regime for Alan's supervision and for the prevention of future sexual activity is in his best interest. So, that's the gist of it. Basically, he's being monitored everywhere that he goes to prevent him from going into a sexual relationship or even having sex once. Now, to me, I think that's... Here's where I'm torn. If he doesn't know what it is, if he doesn't understand what sex is, like fully, then in a way he's being used by someone else for that means. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that he can't engage in sex just because his IQ is low, I think it's not a good thing at all.
I think what it comes down to, as I read more about the story, was that the individual that he was having sex with, I believe, was someone tasked to perhaps take care of him. And I am not sure if you're aware of what an IQ of 48 would look like. I have a friend whose daughter's IQ is 40, and I can tell you she would have no idea what it is. She would just know like it feels good. But in articles I read, his the sexual component of all of us is biological. And so we all have that feeling, right? But not all of us understand it. And he was caught making obscene gestures and doing weird visual acts to children. And the man that he was having sex with was taking advantage of him because it was a caretaker. And when asked if he understood where babies come from, he said that storks bring them to homes. So if he doesn't understand it, it's not necessarily that they want to take it away from him because they're being mean. It's more that he's just a very vulnerable adult that clearly doesn't understand the context of it. He doesn't have the mental capacity to make an informed decision. He would be classified in the United States as a vulnerable adult, which is a scary place to be. Women are sexually assaulted, I think, 6 times more than the average woman. And so it's from that perspective, I understand it.
I guess what I would have done, because I think I totally get that, and I agree with that. But the judge issued a ruling that he can't engage in a sexual, sexual behavior, and I think that's extreme. What they should have done is say, we're going to monitor you, and if you develop a relationship that is, healthy and it's mutual, and you both are feeling this, and it's not,
He would never. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
With a 48 IQ, he would never be able to understand. He just wouldn't. He doesn't have the faculties to make his informed consent, and that's what it comes down to. I can tell you, my friend's daughter, whose IQ is 40, would have zero way of understanding. When he's making that decision to have sex, he's following that biological drive of it feels good without understanding the context of what it means.
Is that okay, though? If he's doing it because it feels good, is that a good enough reason?
I don't think so, because anyone that chooses to have sex with him is essentially in a power position with him because he doesn't understand.
Some people like that.
He wouldn't, but he doesn't get that, and that
was me being facetious.
My son has developmental disabilities, and so I kind of think of this from that perspective.
Sure.
And you protect people that don't understand, and really what I thought the judge and the courts were doing there was just trying to protect him from predators.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I understand it. It's such a, I mean, I just can't imagine. I feel for the guy so bad.
Yeah. I mean, there's really tough things that happen a lot with adults with disabilities when it comes down to these types of topics. I mean, if a woman who is in that position ends up pregnant and with a child, a lot of times they lose custody because they don't have the developmental skills to take care of a child. So there's a lot of very complicated case for sure.
Sure. And hats off to those people who are social workers that get in there and deal with that every day, because it takes a tough person to be able to battle that every day, just on an emotional level. So
and there's just so many people that will prey on these people, so they do need to be protected.
Absolutely. Okay, so I believe that is. Let me double check. Yep. We got through them without any hitches. We're learning this.
I'm not learning anything. I'm just sitting here.
So we wanted to talk about a couple things. We'll close out with Mr. Glass, our Terp Derp, and kind of catch up on what we went into a little bit last week. But an interesting thing happened yesterday that shouldn't have happened. Now, people, I think, there's a certain amount of respect you should have, no matter what your beliefs are. And when people blatantly go in your face in the wake of a tragedy, like a huge tragedy, number one, it doesn't play out well for them, and number two, it's just shocking, I think. And I think it's important to know that there are people who still exist like this in our backyard. So I'm going to let Katie talk about her article that she wrote last night on Back to Nazis. Back to Nazis.
Yeah. So it was this morning, actually. I woke up and someone that helps me with content, she gave me this link to this Facebook page, and she said, "You write this." And I brought up the page, and it was a haunted house in Ohio, about 2.5 hours west of Pittsburgh, south. So not very far by any means. I mean, enough for that, it's close enough. And knowing that there was the synagogue massacre yesterday, where 11 people were killed by a man who was anti-Semitic, mean all the Jews must die, and he injured 4 police officers. And so in the sort of the wake of that, everyone was grieving, and it was a huge, and it's a horrible tragedy. It brings up all kinds of sentiments about the Holocaust, and all of the that anti-Semitism that still exists, and I think been fueled and almost empowered and emboldened by the Trump administration, with so many different white supremacists supporting him, and he plays into their hands. And so with that happening yesterday, it was a very sad day. And it's a house, and this is sort of the part about it that is just weird to me, is that they already had this planned, and if you already have this planned, that just gross to me anyway. But they were hosting Swastika Saturday at a haunted house.
Lovely.
Yeah. And so, and it's called Haunted Hoochie, which is just the grossest thing ever.
Well, we're getting closer to the accuracy here, though. That sounds a little bit more appropriate.
Right.
Haunted Hoochie.
So Haunted Hoochie is like this adult, they say they're this adult sensory experience that will shock and horrify you. And some haunted houses, they don't touch you. And I guess at this place, they're very physical, and they get in your face, and they grope. And my friend Laura, who gave me the story, said that they're notorious about groping women's breasts with these haunted houses. And the owners of this company have been very pro-Trump and very vocal about their support for Trump. And it sounds like it's a conservative company. And my friend Laura says extremely trashy. Well, so they were hosting Swastika Saturday, and they started promoting it on Instagram, Facebook, and people got wind of it and connected it to, whoa, there was this huge massacre just like 2 hours from here, and you're going to host a Swastika Saturday, with the caveat that anyone that wore a swastika got free admission. And this place isn't cheap. I have never been to a haunted anything that costs this much, but it's $20 to $45.
That's actually not that far outside of the. There's 200 houses here where I am. They're fairly big, and I think one of them's 22, and then the other one's 19, I think. So
okay.
But what they had an opportunity here, I think, to do a lot of good with this.
Yeah.
As bad as it is, they could have donated, whatever the money was from that night towards the victims. They could have changed there's
theme.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, at least change the theme.
And it caused a huge outrage on Facebook. And that's really what my friend was pointing me to. And I found myself reading through dozens and dozens and dozens of exchanges between this haunted hoochie and people, essentially telling them this is tacky. 11 people were just murdered. Why are you posting this? You need to cancel it. This is disgusting. People that had been using or had former guests of this haunted house were essentially saying, like, I'm never going back. And the haunted house was so cavalier about it, almost a little bit cocky, where they were just like, we did this for 28 years and this is our tradition. And we use the swastika as a way to say that we don't promote hate and we want to take it back.
That's the bullshit line of the night that they used right there.
Yeah. Like, this isn't for hate. This is for, we don't hate anyone. We love everyone. They say, and there's enough scary things in Halloween that you really don't need to swastika as a way to scare someone. Have if Snake Saturday or a Skeleton Saturday, if you want to play off the Saturday, you know.
But they literally took the most real horror thing that's ever happened in this country and are making light of that. And on a day where people that were Jewish that went to they were going to a synagogue got slaughtered. And the lack of like self-awareness on their part to just in the face of this, obviously this is going to be a media storm. They doubled down on it. Like they doubled down on swastikas.
Yeah.
Who doubles down on swastikas?
Right. Essentially saying that the swastika is a former, and it's true, right? The swastika is a Nordic sign, and it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean what the Nazis make it mean. The Nazis just took the image and made it their own.
Right.
And understand that thought process where, okay, this isn't what it actually means, but it doesn't matter what it once meant. Now it's notorious.
Right. And they're not wearing those swastikas to represent the cultures that started out with them. Like, no one wears the SS uniform like that of the year does because he's celebrating ancient Egypt or ancient Egyptian culture.
No.
The Nazi the swastika is synonymous with the atrocities that were committed during World War II. And sure, if somebody walked up to Swastika Saturday in an ancient Egyptian costume or what they used to wear back then and it had swastikas on it, I'm sure it wouldn't. You could believe them. But nobody does that because there's one reason people wear swastikas. And we all know what that reason is.
Right. But of course they won't admit that. And there's just so many layers of this. It's, and the good thing that I noticed as I was scrolling through and reading so many of these comments this morning was that it really got the community activated, and they were making calls to the media. They contacted the local TV 10, actually filmed at the haunted hoochie, and protesters showed up and lit candles and held signs for the victims. So in that respect, it did get that momentum. I think USA picked it up. So, and then other people were contacting the Chamber of Commerce of located to talk about, this horrific evening that they host. And not all traditions are good things. Like, there is zero reason there should ever be a Swastika Saturday. And, and then private group posting photos, and the photos are just, women with their big boobs hanging out and swastikas painted on them.
I'm getting ready to show you guys.
Oh, good. You got the picture. Good.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do it. I'm not going to try to mess with the setup that I have going on here, so I'm going to show you old school by just holding my phone up to the screen. Look, I'm not risking it. But I was reading this article from Katie today, and if you haven't read it, you need to, because it's fantastic. But the ending is just brilliant, because here's what we're going to do, guys. I want you to stop for a second and think, like really think in your head. If someone were to say to you, imagine somebody, let's say a woman, at Swastika Saturday. If you had to envision Swastika Saturday, what it entails, what it stands for, just kind of conjure up an image of a woman that might be present at Swastika Saturday. And I want you to hold that image in your head for just a second, because I think collectively we are all thinking about this woman. We will call her Swastika Susie.
Oh, and you know what the bad thing is there was nipples in the actual photo that I had to crop out. You could see the nips, and they were ginormous.
Thank God.
I mean, her boobs are humongous, and she looks like someone that would probably have a boyfriend that's a white supremacist. Just a guess.
I think that's a good hunt. How many did it say? How many people attended, like on the swastika side?
You know, I didn't see a number. I saw them. It was weird. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. Ohio is an hour ahead, and they were saying the last crew went through at like 2 in the morning. So I'm not sure.
Well,
it's just so.
I hope they have to. You know, they have to live with that. So that's on them.
Yeah, my hope, honestly, was people read it and then go to the page and then just leave them a review. Like, go there and leave a 1-star review and tell them how tacky they are and how insane it is.
They've got a lot of those, by the way. A lot of
those
one-star reviews. Okay.
Yes.
There was one more story we were going to kind of touch on. I believe it was vegans, right?
The vegans.
Go for it.
So now this is new. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in Canada in terms of understanding what cultural sects are in terms of cults and religion. But from what I've learned in the last week is that parts of Alberta, Canada, are relatively conservative. They have pockets of churches there that are pretty conservative, fundamental. Lots of cases that in the last few years of parents with refusing medical care for their children. One gentleman refused to have his son seen for meningitis, and his son died. Another parent, her son got ill and he passed away. So it's sort of in that same area. So this couple, Jennifer and Jerome Clark, have 3 children, and it's interesting because the death took place, I believe, in 2013. The arrest subsequently happened in 2014, and the conviction just happened last week.
Oh, that's a long process.
Yes, very slow. So from what I've been able to look at is Jennifer and Jerome had been part of the Seventh-day Adventists, which I don't know a whole lot about. I know that they often have clean eating habits. Many are very conscious about their diets. A lot of them are vegetarians. I don't think from what I've learned, they don't specifically push a vegan diet. They have hospitals and clinics, and they're not opposed to medical care. So from what I was able to gather here is that Jennifer and Jerome were a part of the Seventh-day Adventists, and then, according to the pastor church, sort of became radicalized and really conservative. And Jerome, who had been a very happy and kind man, sort of became stern and never smiled anymore, and was very not very nice to his children and very controlling with his wife. And he and Jennifer ended up leaving the church, somehow took the teachings of the Seventh-day Adventists and did a very conservative offshoot of this church.
Mm-hmm.
So Jennifer gives birth to her little son, John, in 2012, I believe. This story hits home because I had my son in 2012. So John would be 6, just like my son. So she had a home birth for him, and he never saw a doctor. He never received any vaccinations. He never, nothing. I mean, the first and only time this child ever saw a doctor was the day of his death. So Jennifer and John adhere to this extremely strict vegan diet. I don't know why. If you see pictures of them, they're extremely gaunt, very thin. They have 2 other children. I don't know where they are at this point, but John ends up getting very ill, and he develops a rash, and his mom notices that his toes are black.
Whoa.
So they end up doing like a Google search, and they're searching for how to treat gangrene homeopathically.
Wait a minute. They discover that their child has black feet,
Mm-hmm.
and their initial reaction is to search for the answers on Google.
Yes. The child was extremely delayed. Doctors that testified at the hearing said that he was 14 months old. He weighed 20 pounds. He couldn't stand on his own. He couldn't walk. He didn't have any strength, any sort of muscle tone that they could see in his legs or his arms. So essentially what happens is the baby, and according to witnesses and family, Jennifer and Jerome kept all of this hidden. They kept him away from family and friends. They sort of kept everyone out of the loop with what was going on with this infant. And he develops a rash on 70% of his body. The rash ends up becoming necrosis, so the skin is dying. He becomes hypothermic. His heart is like 70 to 80 beats per minute, which for an infant, just to give you an understanding, it should be around 120. So he's very low heart rate. His body temperature, I think they said, was around 85 degrees when he got into the hospital. His body, the ambulance driver that saw him, that his body looked like he had been burned.
Oh, please tell me that they took these parents around back and shot both of them.
So the parents at the hospital seem, doctors describe, as almost aloof and indifferent to how ill the child is. The doctors described and mind you, they never had any intention of taking the baby to the doctor because they didn't believe in modern medicine or using doctors. Instead, they prayed for the child.
God.
However, someone in their family, thank goodness, had the wherewithal to see the child and really push them to take the boy into the hospital. To a hospital near Calgary that wasn't a children's hospital. And when the doctors saw the infant, they said that he was at death's door. they didn't really think that the child would survive, and they transported the baby via to local children's hospital of Alberta. And when he was in the children's hospital, they were doing everything to try to increase his heart rate, increase his body temperature. They put heat lamps and they put these warm blankets on them, giving him fluids. They did that. He had a staph infection. And yeah, ultimately the staph infection had covered 70% of his body, and his body was like covered in blisters that were black and dying. Oh. And the little boy, he had his first cardiac arrest that evening in the hospital. They were able to resuscitate him, and they were able to get him a little bit more stable overnight. And then the following morning, the next day, he had another cardiac arrest, and they were not able to resuscitate him. And doctors said that after the first cardiac arrest, they had to sit down the parents to them how serious this was. And obviously they were sad, but they were also very, again, sort of puzzled.
Now, was this done in a interrogation room or behind jail bars when they talked to the parents?
No, because at the time they didn't really know what was done. They didn't, and I'm not sure if you've ever been in an ICU for children. It's very chaotic. I only know this because my son was in intensive care when he was 3 months old, and there's oftentimes just so much going on in those initial hours to try to save the child, and measures taken by the doctors, that there's not a time to deal with what the story is about it. They can only make assumptions. So essentially what happens is within 21 hours of the baby coming into the hospital, away. And they suspect that because the child had literally never been to the hospital reports it, because the parents, there's actually a law in Canada that parents are supposed to and have to provide the daily necessities for a child to live. And in Canada, healthcare is free. So there's zero excuse for you to not take your child to the doctor. It's not the same excuse we have here where it's expensive and we might not be able to afford it. In Canada, because it's a right of all citizens, it's also a law that parents have to provide that care for their children. And so the doctors report that to authorities. They order an autopsy, and the autopsy comes back and determines that the infant died from malnutrition. And as a result of the malnutrition, the body developed a staph infection. His immune system was so compromised that he couldn't fight it. Had the parents taken the child to the hospital before, when the infection started, he would have survived.
So are they now going to present or file charges against these parents?
So so what happened was it took about a year. So he passed away in 2013, and then in December of 2014, the parents were finally arrested and charged. They had to go through the autopsy. They had to, the police, the authorities said it was a very complex story because it involved having to dig, because he had no medical records. They had to do a ton of digging about this child. The child essentially had zero paper trail. And so imagine how hard that is to create a case when the child has no paper trail. So eventually they arrest the parents. The parents take so many steps to delay this process. I mean, massive steps to delay the process for years and years and years. At one point, they disappear when they're supposed to show up in court. And eventually it gets to this point this last summer where the judge just got tired of all of the delays, and they said, we're going to trial, and your trial is starting in October, and we're done. This is too long. So the trial started in the beginning of October. And they had dozens and dozens and dozens of witnesses that testified from the hospital. And the testimony from these doctors about the way that this baby looked, it's heart-wrenching. I mean, I had a hard time reading it, and I had a hard time really sort of wrapping my head around how these doctors were furious at the parents, but at the time they couldn't do anything about it because they had to save the child.
Sure.
And, they brought in developmental pediatricians. They brought in people from infectious. The defense's excuse was that the hospital created the infection, and that the child, when he got into the hospital, had very low sodium levels. And when you have really low sodium levels, it can cause cardiac arrest, and it can cause your, salt is kind of what keeps your heart going and it keeps your systems going. And if you don't have enough salt in it, it can kill you. And so in order to get his levels up so he wouldn't say, they gave him sodium, which isn't uncommon. And the defense was like, well, they gave him so much sodium, they poisoned him to death with sodium, and there was germs at the hospital that killed him.
That is absolutely insane
yeah.
That can happen nowadays. When somebody says that they don't trust modern medicine, modern medicine is what is allowing us to live longer, to understand diseases, to be preventive. Like every step of the way, we are making new strides in medicine and seeing the benefits of that.
Yes.
With things like polio, those things that wiped out remember back in the I can't remember exactly what year it was, but there was a year where the flu wiped out like untold amount of people. Like the flu, something that we get a little bit of and we feel run down for the day. We get some soup and a couple of days later you're fine. Wiped out a bunch of people. Like medicine has got us to the point where we can get through things and diseases that at once you couldn't.
Right, and the flu continues to be one of the most deadly viruses in the world. Yep. In terms of the amount that die from it every year. Even last year in the United States, there was 79 deaths from the flu.
There are a lot of people, or too many people, that die each year from the flu. But let me pull up that statistic. But there's one where there was a year.
There was a pandemic in 2008 and 2009. Is that what you're referring to?
No, this one was way back.
Oh.
Hold on. I don't want to. I'm scared to say millions because I'm not 100% on it, but.
Well, it's no different than, say, like smallpox wiped out huge, like mass amounts of Native Americans when the forefathers came and founded America. Smallpox took out large populations of pilgrims, and now we have no smallpox.
Oh, this is disheartening. In looking for that, 80,000 people died of the flu
last year
in the U.S. last winter.
Yep, I wrote
80,000.
I wrote an article about it on Friday. There was a 6% decline in the vaccinations, and that doesn't sound like a lot. There's 350 million people in the United States, and 6% of that is 19 million people. So 48.4 million people had the flu last year. 79,000 died, and 184 of those were children. And 184 of the children, 80% not vaccinated and had no other health issues.
Here's what I was talking about though. 100 years ago. So around I've been so stressed out about this VMix, I can't even do simple math. In 1918, 50 million people died from the flu. 50 million.
Yeah, it's intense. And that's the misconception. I mean, even we're sort of off topic. It's relevant because we're entering flu season right now.
Sure.
And I did write an article about this on Friday because I think there is this massive misconception about how the flu shot works. And people think, well, I can get the flu if I get the flu shot. Yep, you can. And I've had the flu shot the last 2 years and flu the last 2 years. However, the flu shot reduces the severity of the flu that you get so that when you do get sick, you're not getting as sick as you would. This last year's flu vaccine reduced the severity of the illness 40% in individuals that got the flu as a result. It also prevents, when some people they build up enough antibodies where they do prevent and they don't get the flu. Right. And so it's not that it's not effective. They said that the flu strain for the vaccine last year was exactly what they saw in terms of what came out for the flu. It's merely the fact that not enough people are getting vaccinated. And so the virus spreads because there's not enough herd immunity. And then it affects the elderly the most. The bulk of the deaths come in there. But interesting was that almost 11,000 of those deaths were in people aged 64.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
18 to 64-year-olds are notoriously like the most common to not get vaccinated.
The 18-year-olds I get, yeah, but it seems like when you're in your 50s and up, that's when you kind of buckle down on your health. And I know my grandma is every year.
Yeah. Well, the flu
tearing down the door to get a flu shot.
Right. Well, that's because as you get older and your immune system declines, the flu has complications like pneumonia and bronchitis that can turn into pneumonia, which ultimately can end up killing people. And so it's hard for the CDC to actually even good numbers because they don't just look at who had the flu, but they also have to look at who died of pneumonia. And then they have to see if the flu was a culprit of that. So the bulk of the deaths continue to be 65 and older population, but there was 11 deaths of people that were in that age range. So the flu vaccine, there's zero way you're going to be able to get sick. Can't get sick. The way that it's made, you would never, it's not an active virus. They take a small portion of the virus and make it inactive, or they isolate a single gene and they give you a single gene. Neither one of those ways will give you the flu. And it'll give you a soreness at the injection site, and it might make you have a little bit of a tiny stuffy nose and maybe a little bit of an upset stomach.
Yeah. Katie, try this real quick. Your audio is kind of clipping a little bit on the ends of some of your words. Will you refresh your browser and see if that takes care of it? I reset you in here, but you started to clip there for a little bit. See if we can fix
that better?
Say something.
Hi.
Seems better. We'll keep our fingers crossed. One last thing about that, though. In that the 1918 thing in October.
Yeah.
It was October of 1918. That was a third of the world's population that died. A third of the world's population.
Yeah.
It's insane. Trivia question, and guys in the live chat, you can play along too. Do you know what the most deadly thing in the world is that has claimed more lives than anything else over the course of history? It's a living thing. Any guesses, live chat?
Bears.
Bears is good. That's actually good. Who was that late? Oh yeah, Stephen Colbert. He has a vendetta against bears. Good guess though, but that is not correct. Time, good, another good guess, but that is not correct. Hippos, another good guess, but that is not correct. Heart disease, nope. Nope. Religion, nope.
Worms?
Nope. Brant, you're dead on. Mosquitoes.
Malaria!
Yes. It's where's this? Okay. Each year, mosquitoes are responsible for 830,000 deaths. For comparison, humans are responsible for 580,000 human deaths, snakes 60,000, and sharks, which people think are the scariest animal, only took 6.
Yeah,
So
there's not as
yeah,
shark
um,
attacks are actually quite rare.
very rare. I think you have a better chance of getting hit by lightning than you do
Yeah.
getting eaten by a shark. But you don't go swimming in lightning ponds, do you? No, you don't.
No. So, okay, back to this baby.
Yes.
So, after a 3-week trial, the jury goes to deliberation, and I believe it was not this past Friday, so it's been about 10 days ago. A jury convicted them of negligent homicide and failing to provide the necessary
Bare minimum.
bare minimum for the kid.
Yeah.
So they had an option to appeal, which they declined because they don't have money. And the weird thing is that after they were sentenced, the judge had them post bail, and then they get to go home until February when they're sentenced.
That's Canada for you.
Yeah.
That is a Canadian way to do prison. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So their sentencing will be in February, and they're facing, I think, 5 years to life.
Oh man, if they listen, is it a jury? How does it work in? I'm not sure in Canada. Is it a jury that will be doing that, or a judge?
I'm not sure.
I see a jury giving somebody like that a lot of time, and a judge trying to take emotion out of it, and setting a very lenient sentence. I hope that's not the case though.
Yeah, there was a case that just went through in Texas where a mom was basically starved her son almost to the point of death, and had picked out his coffin and was telling everyone he was dying, and had enrolled him in hospice care. And she was convicted of attempted murder, and a jury sentenced her to 5 years. It's just makes no sense.
Well, talk about let me tell you about crazy. There's a YouTube video where you can actually see this, and it's unbelievable. But there's a law, and the video will tell you what state this is from. But this state has it's mandatory minimums for any kind of sexual assault, whether it be on people who are the same age or people who are minors. Now, you had a teacher, a woman teacher, that had, I think the guy was 14. Don't quote me on that, but I think he was 14. She let him touch her boobs. Okay? She was convicted of sexual assault on a minor, and statutory rape, I think. But they gave her life in prison. She can get out in 20 years, but they gave her life in prison. And the judge you could tell the judge was having an issue with it, because he was like, "Look, I don't have a choice here. This is how the laws are in this state, and I have to give you the mandatory minimum for the crime that you have been convicted of." And the interesting thing was the jury was given 2 choices. One would have allowed sort of some leeway with the sentencing, and then there was the assault, which carried the mandatory minimum of life in prison. So she got life in prison for letting a 14-year-old touch her boobs. And I know that's wrong, but life in prison, I mean...
Right. And then a mom starves her child to the
Right.
point where he was 50 pounds and he was 13 years old, and he had a feeding tube and a central line for TPN, and she had an ostomy bag for his poop, and
Right.
he picked out his coffin, and she gets 5 years.
They need to like, that would be a really good topic for you to write about. And then I could lend you my expertise from when I was on the inside. But
When you're all clinky, you're in the clink clink.
yeah, the clink clink. You can't call it the clink clink though. You'll probably
No,
get beat up if you call it the clink clink. It's on the
I
yard,
don't. You
man.
know,
On the
I don't.
yard.
I only have um, a one night experience.
Uh-oh. Well,
Yeah,
let me guess. You drinking a little bit too much?
I did.
Happens to the best of us. Happens to the best. Did you wake
Yeah,
up
when I was
there?
like, well, I was 25 and it was a DUI, and it was
Yeah.
really stupid. And
Okay.
I lived in California at the time,
The-
and
If
so
Go
I
ahead. I'm
ended
sorry.
up in a women's detention like holding cell, and yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, those aren't fun. But the best is to watch the people come in that wake up there and have no clue where they are. Like, they
Oh,
yeah,
when
they
I
get them
was
drunk.
in there,
Yeah.
it was funny. So I was barely drunk. I mean, it's no excuse, but I was not inebriated by any means. And when I was getting booked, the booking person was like, "Are you sure you're drunk? You're certainly not acting like our normal, DUI." And I was like heated and mad and whatever. So she was like flabbergasted, right? And I get put in the holding cell, and like within 5 minutes, a woman is like thrown in, and she literally like falls face to the
Oh
ground,
yeah.
and she was like so intoxicated, couldn't stand up. And then she like woke up like an hour later, and we were like, "What are you here for?" And she's like, "Drinking and driving." And we were like, "How did you even?"
Yeah. That's why those shows do so well, where they put the cameras up in like
Yeah,
booking centers,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's like a circus there. Everybody that comes in is different, and the people who are like messed up on those like bath salts or those kind of like hard street drugs that are
yeah,
synthetic,
yep,
those are the like, they terrified me when they would come in, because they're so unpredictable. And one minute they're just standing there all nice and happy, and the next minute they're literally chewing on their food tray. It's ridiculous. But
I know. I was, yeah, those are nuts.
I would have loved to have seen your mugshot. How did you smile, or did you
I
frown?
don't even know. I don't even know. It's so dumb because I'm going to be 40 in a couple weeks, and anytime I apply to do anything, I have to talk about, if you have an
Yeah.
arrest, and it's embarrassing because I was such a different person back then than I am now, and
Mhm.
I'm sure you understand,
I
and
I do a little bit. Yes, indeed.
yeah, yeah, and,
My
and
stay
you're
was a little
just
bit
like,
longer though.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, mine ended up just being like I had to pay a fine, and I lost my license for a few months, and I
Lucky.
had to go to a couple AA meetings, and it was really awkward too because I had to go to AA meetings, and I was a stupid 25-year-old. I wasn't an alcoholic, and I'm sitting in these AA meetings, and you're not supposed to talk about AA, but the women in these stories, I was like, I am not supposed to be
Yeah,
here.
they're uncomfortable. They can get to be
Really,
really
yeah,
uncomfortable. But
yeah, and I just
with the day that I actually went, because I went up serving a year, I had a deal worked out for the cocaine charge before we went in. So I was going to court, and then that night I had a rehearsal dinner. It was a Friday. I had a rehearsal dinner that I was a chef then, so I had a big party coming. They had rented out the restaurant. We were doing their rehearsal dinner. It was going to be a big thing, and this was going to be a breeze. I was just going to walk in, accept the extended probation that they were offering, and that was it. And I go in, and the prosecutor's there. Judge asked the prosecutor, I understand there's already agreement that's been reached. Prosecutor takes the agreement up there. He reads it, and he reads it and reads it and reads it and reads it, and it's just an uncomfortable amount of time passes. Like,
Oh no.
you can feel something is wrong here, and the judge just, I guess he had a bad morning or whatever, because he just, as casually as he could be, and this is the part that like sticks in my mind now, like it was nothing, like he was ordering toast. I'm rejecting this agreement. The defendant is he's remanded to the Department of Corrections for a term of no less than 1 year. And so I'm like, it doesn't hit you because you're not expecting to hear those words.
You weren't prepared for it.
No, absolutely not. But in the prosecutor's face, you could just tell she was blindsided too. She didn't understand why this was happening. And from that point on, I was mentally prepared to go do a rehearsal dinner, and instead, I was being shackled and probed and all kind of other fun stuff. Yeah. So, but I got street cred now.
Yeah, you do. You should watch this show called Love After Lockup. It's like amazing. It's on Lifetime.
I have seen that. Yeah. It's funny because people watch shows like Orange Is the New Black, and they think that's a over dramatized aspect of it, but it's really not. And in fact, some of the things that go on inside of prisons make that is equally unbelievable. You watch Orange Is the New Black, and you're like, stuff like this doesn't happen on the inside. It does. It really does.
Oh, I love that show Lockup, and I love the show Women Behind Bars, and my husband hates it. He hates that I watch these shows because he has family members that have been incarcerated, and so for him, he's just not interested. It's something that he's used to, and for me, I just find it fascinating, and I'm obsessed with understanding the choices people make and the societies that they live in while they're incarcerated, and all of the dynamics. It's probably why I write about what I do, because I'm just intrigued by people. And the women's ones are always so raunchy. I mean,
in jail, I know that in jail, prisons are obviously separated, but in jail you have to house them in the same building sometimes, and the guards will even tell you that they're scared to go into the women's pod. But the funny thing in the prison aspect, sometimes even though they were on the other side, the guards are really unsung heroes in a sense. And I guess we'll close out with this because we are hitting right at 2 hours, so we went for a while tonight. But
did we? Well, we started late.
That is true. But there's a position or a job duty that you have to undertake at the prison when you're coming back from places. So if you're going to visit your family in the visitation room, you then have to go back and you have to go through a screening room. It's the same. People were asking in the live chat what I meant by probing. When you come into prison, right?
You have to spread them, right?
Yeah. Well, yes. When you come in, it's you have to get processed. You have to take off all of your clothes. It's a big open room, and they have boxes in front of you, and you have to decide whether or not. And this is the state with money, because they put a box in front of you and they say, okay, you got two choices. You can either destroy these clothes, we'll take them and get them incinerated, or you can donate them to Goodwill, but you can't keep them. So either way, you have to pay $15 to either donate them or to have them burnt. So right off the gate, they're hitting you for that cash. But there's a guard's job, changes out each day, that when you come back from these places, just so they can make sure you're not smuggling in any kind of contraband, they make you strip, and you have to face the wall and lift a certain part of yourself up so that they can check to make sure you don't have any contraband there. Now, me being who I am, I felt really bad for this particular guard. So to help them cope, I started writing messages there for them to find each time when I come back. So be like, hey, have a nice day, or nice day, taint it.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm just doing my part.
That
That's
would
all.
have, and I've seen some of the strip downs when they process and get you moved from county to the penitentiary. I've watched plenty of shows on that, and it looks very humiliating and degrading. Yeah,
but
I
after a
can't
while,
imagine
you get
having to go through
second
that.
nature. After a while, second nature. Just like he got to a point where he would say, "Hey, back." We didn't have to speak. He knew what was there.
I know, and can you imagine being the guard that every day you got to look in someone's butthole? I mean,
It can't be pleasant, but
and with females, I mean, I have seen enough shows knowing that they hide a lot of stuff up the hoo-ha.
oh yeah. It happens. Yeah, it happens a lot. People use their prison purse quite often. So
Well, and or they swallow a bag.
there have been
And
some
then
people that do that, but that's dangerous because if it gets stuck, you can't get it back out and it busts. Like depending on whatever you're hiding, then you could really be in a world of trouble.
Overdose.
Yeah.
And die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish that we could publicly I could disclose a lot of my stories. Unfortunately, I can't because snitches get stitches, and I just can't do stitches. Just can't.
Oh yeah.
Anyways.
Well, my story was, a bunch of prostitutes, and I was telling them they need to not have a pimp because pimps beat them up. Take their money.
That is true. Money makes people do weird things. Money makes people want to go to a prison and look under somebody's nuts for a job. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you take a step back and it drives people to do just really weird things.
I know.
But we did not get to. I'm sorry if you were watching, Mr. Glass, but we just found things that were more interesting than turpentine tonight.
Yeah, I mean, Danny, you're not that. I mean, you're just kind of a whack job. Yeah. Do you even deserve more minutes of our time?
Nice six pack. I'll
nice vegan six pack. You look emaciated. I cannot tell you how bad your skin looks. You look completely stoned all the time.
Stop the turpentine, man. You're aging way too quickly.
We saw videos of you prior, and you looked pretty good.
Yeah.
You're not looking so hot these days.
And it was equally hot because the video he was talking about was why he was going on a no-fat diet. That is true, a no-fat diet. He was not masturbating for a month because he just got too into it. You should watch that video if you haven't seen it yet, though. It's really telling. But he was into that whole making your body go through these like extremes, like doing something for a long period of time, then shutting it off. Kind of like allegedly Dave, the urine therapy, flat Earth sovereign citizen guy. He like 3 years ago did a thing called. It starts with a B. Somebody in the live chat help me out. It's where you don't eat at all.
Oh, breatharian or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Breatharian. Yeah.
And they can only drink.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, Dave, look, allegedly Dave, you're doing too much, man. The sovereign citizen title alone puts you in a category, but urine therapy, flat Earth, starving yourself, and all. Stop it, Dave. Stop it.
Did you notice that, like, Danny can't decide either what he's doing? It's turpentine, it's miracle mineral solution, it's supplements, it's
yoga,
it's Tai Chi, whatever, it's juicing, it's like whatever and borax, eating borax.
What?
This is the one question I would ask any of these people is, you will not get a vaccine because you think you're getting toxic things put into you, but you'll drink turpentine that will make your lungs bleed and damage your kidneys.
And borax.
And
Wow.
borax, which borax borax is actually a natural mineral that's found. It's boron, I think is what it's called, and it's a natural mineral that's found in like the mountains or hills. And it has properties that are good, but not to the way that these people are using it. And if you ingest it, I mean, if you read the instructions of how to even handle borax,
Yeah.
there's, do not ingest it, use gloves. Like these are chemicals you should not be putting into your body, but they will do that. But then they won't use an antibiotic because then they will be resistant to antibiotics.
You mean they're not using common sense or reasoning, logic? I can't believe they're not doing that. It seems too impossible.
Yeah. It's like, Danny, you might have a following of idiots that follow you, and that might make you feel good, but you're actually hurting people. You're harming them. You're making them sicker. You yourself look sicker. You've killed your girlfriend. So I'm sure he doesn't sleep very well at night. Like, I hope he doesn't. Otherwise, he's just so wasted on turpentine that he doesn't care.
He probably is. But let me give him. Let's wind down with some advice, guys. Number one, thank you for staying with us and being patient with me learning how to do vMix. Apparently, I didn't click too many wrong buttons because we are still streaming, so that's good. I'll go back and cut out the me effing up in the beginning so that I don't have to hear about how technologically challenged I am. But if you're going to start a movement for the next person, whoever it is, far beyond Jilly Juice and far beyond Terp Derp and Borax Bob or whatever, go with a cleaning since you're obviously focused on cleaning chemicals, right? Yeah. Go with one that the name says exactly what you want it to do. It'll sell itself. And you sell these because they're a good cleanse and clean. Have people drink Mr. Clean. That is a fantastic. It markets itself, Mr. Clean. So good deal.
You shouldn't say that too loud because these people are idiots, and they'll be like, "Oh,
no, that's natural selection." What I just did was natural selection. I'm doing the human population a favor there. And Tide Pods, those are like appetizers for the Mr. Clean diet. So you get you a tray and you put little toothpicks in Tide Pods and just carry them around your crazy tinfoil parties. It'd be great.
Yeah, I always feel like every week I'm not going to find more crazy, and I'm not going to unearth more, and it's every single day somebody's bringing me something new, and it's.
I'll tell you guys. I was going to wait until I had Jimmy on the stream next week to do this, but he won't mind if I go ahead and let you guys know. Jimmy and I got into a little bit of an argument. Not really an argument, but we had a disagreement over kids and should Santa Claus still be used when you're raising kids as an atheist. Should you even bother with Santa Claus, or should you tell them out the gate that Santa isn't real? And we disagreed on that, but it ultimately caused me to ask a question that I asked, and then I Googled and I found something surprising. And what if I told you that there are people, adults out there, that still think Santa is real? Oh yes. Get those dumpsters ready. There are people that believe in Santa Claus. There are at least, in the United States, 237 people confirmed that think Santa Claus is real. And this holiday season, we're going to bring them to you. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing: do they believe that Santa's real? Do they believe in the trifecta? Do they believe in the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and Santa?
That's a holy trinity right there. I have to find this out.
It is.
We will find this out.
I have to. atheists are weird about this kind of stuff in the fact that you had this debate, because it brings up an article I wrote about, because my husband and I used to attend a church. I was atheist for many years, and then my son got sick and I got swooped in, and
Sure.
you can see my cat up there. And we started attending a church, and we taught our son about Jesus, and then we stopped going, and I went back to my atheist ways, and now I'm much happier and I'm more myself. And so we had to find a way, because for years we were like, oh, Jesus will keep you safe. And my son is really into dinosaurs. And so a friend of ours made a dinosaur mobile, and while he had his heart surgery, and we hung it up. And then one day our son was like, I don't need Jesus anymore. I have dinosaurs. And I just thought it was a cute story and kind of a way to, like, sort of an anecdote to help other parents that might be, how do you talk to your kids about this? And for the most part, people were really like, oh, this is so sweet. I love this. But then two atheists were like, how dare you even make your son believe in dinosaurs? You're just replacing Jesus with dinosaurs.
Some atheists can't have any fun. I'm of the belief that this is what me and Jimmy disagreed on this, because he didn't think that Santa should be something that you don't lie to them, or if they ask you don't go along with the thing. And I just think that it's a fun tradition that all of their everybody gets in with. I don't see anything wrong with it. People, for the most part, this was the point that I was making to him, because I said it's not like religion. You get to a certain age where people are able to separate Santa Claus from reality. We all get to a point where we can collectively agree, or so I thought, that Santa Claus wasn't real anymore. But 200 out of the adult population, I can live with. But I was going to say, and I think your atheist friend beat me to it, but congratulations, because one day you will see on YouTube somewhere, some channel will be debunking, because your son, because of that mobile, will now start a dinosaur cult. He will be the leader of.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Here's the thing: is Jimmy's whole argument and this whole atheist argument about Christmas is Christianity and Santa Claus don't even go together. They just happen to coincide on the same day. And the story of Saint Nicholas.
They're saying that it's wrong to let them believe, kind of letting them believe in something that isn't real, when that's what you stand for as an atheist, that you don't believe that gods are real, so you actively go to try to search for that truth. I just think to me, this is my own personal opinion. Some people won't agree with it, and that's completely fine, because the world having different opinions is a good thing, but I just don't see it that way. I think that it's
No, it's a magical and fun time for children.
Yeah.
And my son thinks it's like amazing that Santa drops off presents, and he wants to leave cookies out for Santa, and when he finally figures it out, it'll be fine. But for right now, it's this very magical and innocent time for him, and why not let him have that?
Yeah. I mean,
he will never have that time in his life again, where he is so naive and so willing and excited, and everything is magical, and let him have it.
Yeah, like I said, I don't see anything wrong with it. I think that my point is that at a certain age, nobody clings on to Santa Claus, and it derail their life or make them, make harmful decisions. Just my opinion. There will be people who disagree, and that's completely fine. But I say let them have Santa.
There's going to be that one person that, when I found out Santa wasn't real, I became a drug addict.
Oh, I know. I can just hear. I'm writing the comments in my.
I know.
In my head right now, which is fine. I mean,
stop reading comments. I've gotten. No,
I love it. I love it. Like it gets my day going. But my whole point of everything that we've kind of touched on tonight is this: at some point, we have to chill out and lighten up and live a little, and not be so just resistant to everything that doesn't fit in that perfect little model that we have chisel it out for ourselves, because it's not going to.
See,
Life's not perfect.
this is why we get along, because you and I are like lighthearted atheists. Lighthearted, happy.
I'm very lighthearted, and
I am too.
I would consider I consider myself, an anti-theist. I think that as a whole, religion is harmful, but I can be completely against religion, and I'm practical. I think I can see that you can have something stand like for kids, Santa Claus, and it be a fun time, and not try to transpose that onto religion, or that is a gateway thing into religion, because it's not. It's kids get presents.
In our house,
if it was a donkey that brought an Xbox to them, they would fall in love with the donkey. It has nothing to do with it's the presents and the times that they have with their friends. So.
And it just creates a magical experience for them, and let them have it when they're 8 years old and they
figure out. Get off your war on
out,
Christmas, atheists.
Yeah, stop it. Stop being
your
so
war on Christmas.
Stop taking my son's dinosaurs away from him.
I feel like we should close out with a Bill O'Reilly thing then. You were just in the no spin zone, and I'm going to have some hot chocolate. We'll catch you guys tomorrow at 8 for the Mandela Effect. How will you remember this episode? Hopefully that Kyle did flawlessly on... Now look, listen. This shows you how used to having a producer I am. I literally sat here waiting for the stream to go off. I am the one that has to close the stream, but I'm literally here going...
Okay. Bye, guys!
Yeah, so let's try this again. We love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you tomorrow. Now, Kyle.